The email from CEO Marcus Bradford sat in my inbox like a ticking bomb. Sarah, we need to discuss your sister's position at the company. My office, 9 a.m. tomorrow. I stared at those words until they blurred, my coffee growing cold beside my keyboard. Emma and I had always been inseparable, identical twins who finished each other's sentences, shared every secret, and even ended up at the same company. Now, as Chief Risk Officer at Bradford Financial, I was being asked to evaluate my own sister's performance. The morning traffic crawled through Manhattan's streets as my mind raced through possibilities. Emma had risen quickly through the trading division, making a name for herself, with consistently high returns. Sure, there had been whispers about her aggressive strategies, but nothing concrete. Nothing that should have caught the CEO's attention. Marcus's corner office commanded a view of Central Park, the autumn leaves creating a canvas of red and gold below. He gestured for me to sit, his expression grave. Sarah, I'll be direct. The board has concerns about Emma's trading activities. The numbers don't add up. We need you to conduct a thorough audit and prepare termination papers if necessary. My throat tightened. Sir, given our relationship, wouldn't another officer be more appropriate? He shook his head. You're the most qualified person in risk management. More importantly, you're known for your integrity. The board trusts you to be objective, family or not. I left his office feeling like I was drowning. In the elevator, I caught my reflection. The same dark hair and green eyes as Emma. But today the similarities felt like a curse. How could I investigate my own twin? Back at my desk, I began pulling Emma's trading records. Everything looked perfect on the surface. Consistent profits, well-documented strategies, detailed reports. Too perfect, perhaps. I dug deeper, cross-referencing timestamps, comparing market data, looking for patterns that others might have missed. That's when I found the first discrepancy. A series of trades executed milliseconds apart, each one small enough to fly under regulatory radar, but together they painted a troubling picture. I expanded my search, going back months, then years. My hands trembled as I compiled the data. This wasn't just aggressive trading, this was systematic fraud. Complex algorithms disguised as normal market activities. Phantom trades that existed only on paper. And somewhere in all of this, $12 million that couldn't be accounted for. Working late? Emma's voice made me jump. She stood in my office doorway, elegant in her designer suit, wearing the confident smile that had helped her charm clients and colleagues alike. Just catching up on some reports, I said, carefully closing the files on my screen. You? Closed another big deal today. She perched on the edge of my desk, just as she used to sit on my bed during our late-night talks growing up. The clients are ecstatic. Marcus will have to consider me for the director position now. I studied her face, my face, essentially, looking for any sign of guilt or worry. There was none, just the same self-assured expression she'd worn since we were kids when she convinced me to switch places for exams or cover for her sneaking out. That's great, I managed. Hey, want to grab dinner this weekend? We haven't really talked lately. Can't. Flying to Aspen with James. She checked her watch. A Patek Philippe that probably cost more than my annual salary. Speaking of which, I should head out. Don't work too hard, sis. After she left, I sat in the darkening office, my mind spinning. The sister I thought I knew everything about was now a stranger. The same person who'd held my hand through our parents' divorce, who'd been my constant ally in a world that often struggled to tell us apart, had been orchestrating a massive financial fraud right under my nose. I pulled up the company's ethics policy on my screen, the words blurring as tears threatened to fall. As Chief Risk Officer, my duty was clear, but as a sister, the weight of my discovery pressed down like a physical thing, making it hard to breathe. My phone buzzed, a text from Emma. "Hey, almost forgot. Can you sign off on those key 3 risk assessments? Need them for a client meeting tomorrow. Love you." The casual request felt like a mockery now. How many other times had I signed documents without questioning her? Had my trust in her made me complicit? I opened my personal laptop and began documenting everything I'd found, creating copies and securing them outside the company's servers. If I was going to do this, I needed to be thorough. No one could accuse me of acting out of jealousy or spite. The night deepened outside my window, lights twinkling across the city like stars. In 48 hours, there would be a board meeting where Emma would present her latest trading strategies. She didn't know that I'd also be presenting, showing exactly how those strategies had been used to perpetrate a massive fraud. My twin sister, my other half, had built her success on lies, and now I had to decide: family loyalty or professional integrity, blood ties or legal obligations. As I gathered my things to leave, a photo on my desk caught my eye. Emma and me at our college graduation, arms around each other, identical smiles beaming at the camera. I turned it face down, unable to bear those smiling faces, and walked out into the night. The next morning, I arrived early, determined to gather final proof before the board meeting. The office was quiet, just cleaning staff, and a few early risers. I logged into the system, ready to compile my findings into a presentation. But something was wrong. Files were missing. Trading records I'd flagged were altered. The evidence of fraud was being systematically erased. My heart raced as I checked access logs. Multiple logins from my credentials, times when I knew I hadn't been at my computer. Then I remembered. Emma and I had shared everything growing up, including passwords, a habit we'd never quite broken. She knew. Somehow, she knew I was investigating her. As if summoned by my thoughts, a message popped up on my screen. Storage room. Now, we need to talk. I stood on shaky legs, straightening my jacket like armor. The storage room had been our secret meeting spot since we both started at the company, a place for sisterly gossip and support during tough days. Now it felt like walking into a trap. Emma was already there, her expression unreadable in the dim light. For a moment, we just stared at each other, mirror images caught in an impossible situation. "Why?" I finally asked. "Why did you do it?" She smiled, but it wasn't the warm smile I'd grown up with. This was something colder, more calculated. "Oh, Sarah, always so righteous, so by the book. Did you really think you were the only one who could figure it out?" "I have to report this," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "You know that." "Do I?" She stepped closer. "Think carefully, sister dear. Your credentials are all over these transactions. Who's going to believe you didn't help me? That you didn't know all along?" The implication hit me like a physical blow. She'd used my trust, my access, my signature to cover her tracks. If this came out, we'd both go down. She must have seen the realization on my face because her expression softened. "It doesn't have to be this way. Help me clean this up, and we both win. The board meeting is tomorrow. One signature from you clearing my trades, and this all goes away." I backed away from her, my twin, my sister, this stranger wearing my face. "You really think I'd help you cover this up?" "Family first," she said, using the words our mother had drilled into us since childhood. We're twins, Sarah. Two halves of the same whole. You really want to destroy that? I turned and walked out, her words following me like shadows. Back at my desk, I stared at my blank screen, mind racing. The evidence was gone, erased or altered beyond recovery. Without proof, it would be my word against hers. And she was right. My credentials were tangled up in everything. Any investigation would implicate me too. But as I sat there, a memory surfaced. Something Grandma had told us when we were little, after catching Emma blaming me for a broken vase. The truth always finds a way out, dear ones. Always. I opened my email and began to type. Mr. Bradford, regarding tomorrow's board meeting. The first rays of dawn were breaking over the city, painting the sky in shades of promise and warning. In a few hours, I would walk into that boardroom and change everything. But first, I had work to do. The morning of the board meeting, I arrived at Bradford Financial 2 hours early. The sky was still dark, the office floors eerily quiet, except for the hum of computers and the occasional cleaning staff member. I had work to do before everyone arrived. Last night, after Emma's threat in the storage room, I'd remembered something crucial. In my first month as Chief Risk Officer, I'd implemented a shadow backup system, a secure, encrypted server that automatically mirrored all trading data. It was a precaution I'd insisted on after a major bank lost millions in a data crash. Emma didn't know about it. Nobody did, except the IT director who'd helped set it up. My hands trembled slightly as I entered the complex series of passwords. If Emma had somehow found this too. But no, the files were there. Every transaction, every altered record, every fraudulent trade, all preserved in their original form. Working early? I jumped at the voice. Marcus Bradford stood in my office doorway, looking impeccable in a charcoal suit despite the early hour. Sir, I need to show you something before the meeting. For the next hour, I walked him through what I'd found. The complex web of fraudulent trades, the manipulated timestamps, the shell companies Emma had created to hide the money trail. His face grew increasingly grave as he studied the evidence. 12 million, he finally said, running a hand through his silver hair. Right under our noses. And you're certain about this? I handed him a USB drive. Everything's here, including proof that my login credentials were used without my knowledge. He pocketed the drive, his expression unreadable. The board meets in an hour. Be ready. By 9, the tension in the boardroom was palpable. 14 people sat around the massive mahogany table, all focused on their tablets where the meeting agenda glowed. Emma sat near the head of the table, looking confident in a navy Armani suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. When she caught my eye, she gave me a small smile. My stomach churned. Did she really think I would back down? That I would help her cover this up? Marcus called the meeting to order. Before we begin, there's been a development regarding the trading division's performance reports. Emma's smile widened as she reached for her presentation materials. Yes, I have the quarterly numbers right here. Not those reports. Marcus cut in. His voice was steel. Sarah, please proceed. I stood, my legs steadier than I expected. With a click of my remote, the room's screens lit up with transaction records, bank transfers, and damning evidence that I'd reconstructed from the backup server. Over the past 18 months, I began, my voice clear in the hushed room. A sophisticated fraud scheme has been operating within our trading division. Using manipulated algorithms and phantom trades, Approximately $12 million has been diverted through a network of shell companies. Emma's face went from confident to confused to pale as I continued my presentation. I showed the board everything: the fake trades, the altered timestamps, the money trail that led to offshore accounts. "This is ridiculous," Emma interrupted, standing up so abruptly her chair rolled backward. "These are legitimate trades. Sarah's just jealous because I've outperformed every metric." "Sit down, Miss Sullivan," Marcus ordered. "Your credentials were used to access and alter company records at 3 a.m. this morning. Care to explain that?" Emma's eyes darted to me, a flash of betrayal crossing her face. I was home asleep. Someone must have hacked. "We have security footage," I said quietly, "and the original records from a secure backup server you didn't know about." The color drained from her face. She sank back into her chair, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the armrests. "Given the severity of these allegations," Marcus continued, "I've already contacted the SEC and our external auditors. Ms. Sullivan, please surrender your company ID and devices. Security will escort you out." "You can't do this." Emma's voice shook. "Sarah, tell them. Tell them you helped me. Your credentials are all over these trades." I met her desperate gaze. "No, Emma, I didn't help you. You stole my passwords, used my trust, and tried to frame me when you got caught." Two security guards appeared at the boardroom doors. Emma's face contorted with rage as she stood. "Family first, remember? We're supposed to protect each other." "I am protecting you," I said softly, "from continuing down this path, from becoming someone who thinks it's okay to steal and lie and betray the people closest to them." She laughed, a harsh sound that didn't match her elegant appearance. "You self-righteous bitch. You really think you're better than me? That you're doing the right thing? Watch your back, sister dear. This isn't over." As security let her out, I remained standing, my presentation still glowing on the screens around us. The board members whispered among themselves, shooting glances between me and the door where my twin had just exited. Marcus cleared his throat. "Given the circumstances, we'll need to do a complete audit of all trading activities. Sarah, I want you to lead the investigation team. And thank you. I know how difficult this must have been." I nodded, unable to speak. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur of action items and next steps. When it finally ended, I walked to my office on shaky legs and closed the door. On my desk, the face-down photo from our graduation caught my eye. I picked it up, studying our identical smiles, remembering how simple everything had seemed back then. When had Emma changed? Or had she always been this way, and I just hadn't wanted to see it? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You chose your job over your own twin. Hope you can live with yourself." I blocked the number, but Emma's words echoed in my mind. Had I done the right thing? The moral thing, yes. The legal thing, absolutely. But family was supposed to be different. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. It was Lisa from HR, looking apologetic. "Sarah? We need you to sign some paperwork regarding the investigation." I followed her to a conference room where several thick folders awaited my signature. Each page felt heavier than the last. Documentation of my sister's crimes, written in cold, official language. As I signed the final page, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. "Check your email, sis. Remember that joint account we opened in college? Guess whose name is on all the transfers?" My blood ran cold. I'd forgotten about that account. We'd opened it together for spring break savings sharing the login like we shared everything else. Had she used it for the stolen money? Racing back to my office, I pulled up my email. There it was. Bank statements showing transfers from our joint account to known shell companies. My name, clear as day, on every transaction. Emma's final trap. Even as she was being caught, she'd made sure I couldn't escape unscathed. I stared at my computer screen, watching as my carefully constructed world began to crumble. The investigation I'd started was about to become much more complicated. And somewhere out there, my twin sister was smiling. 3 days after Emma's dramatic exit from Bradford Financial, I sat in my apartment surrounded by bank statements, old emails, and a growing sense of dread. The joint account she'd mentioned wasn't just a spring break savings account anymore. It had become a complex web of transactions that seemed designed to implicate me in her fraud. My phone rang. Marcus Bradford's number. My hand shook slightly as I answered. Sarah, the FBI's forensic team found something interesting. His voice was carefully neutral. Care to explain why your name is on transfers totaling over $2 million? I closed my eyes, feeling the walls closing in. Sir, that account, it's complicated. Emma and I opened it in college. I haven't used it in years, but we never closed it. Come to the office. Now, bring any documentation you have. The drive to Bradford Financial felt like heading to my own execution. The morning sun glinted off the building's glass facade, a stark contrast to the darkness I felt inside. In the lobby, 2 FBI agents waited with Marcus. Ms. Sullivan. The female agent stepped forward. I'm Agent Carter. We need to discuss some financial records. The next 4 hours were grueling. Every transaction, every password change, every login was scrutinized. I explained the history of the joint account, provided old emails showing I hadn't accessed it in years, handed over my personal bank statements proving I hadn't received any stolen funds. There's something else, Agent Carter said, sliding a document across the table. We found this in your sister's apartment. It was a letter, dated 3 years ago, in what appeared to be my handwriting. In it, I detailed plans to manipulate trading algorithms and divert funds. A perfect piece of evidence implicating me as the mastermind. That's not my signature, I said, studying the letter. Emma and I used to forge each other's handwriting as kids. We made it into a game, seeing who could do it better. A game that's now being used against you, Marcus observed grimly. Agent Carter leaned forward. Ms. Sullivan, we need you to help us understand your sister's methods. How she thinks, how she plans. You're our best chance at tracking down the missing millions. I looked at the fake letter again, remembering all the times Emma and I had cockered for each other growing up. But this wasn't about switching places for a math test anymore. This was serious fraud, and she tried to drag me down with her. Okay, I said. I'll help. But first, there's something you need to see. I pulled out my laptop and opened an encrypted folder labeled Twin Tricks, a detailed record of every time Emma had impersonated me over the years. Every forged signature, every switched identity, every borrowed password. I'd started keeping track in college, not out of suspicion, but because I was amazed at how often we got away with it. This is thorough, Agent Carter muttered, scrolling through the files. Emma thinks she knows all my secrets, I said, but she forgot that I know all of hers too. Over the next week, I worked with the FBI team, helping them understand Emma's patterns, her favorite hiding spots for money, her methods for covering her tracks, the ways she manipulated people and systems. Then came the breakthrough. The money's in Singapore, I told Agent Carter, pointing to a series of transactions. Every summer growing up, we played Monopoly with our grandfather. Emma always hid her money under the Singapore property card. She thought it was lucky. Within hours, the FBI had frozen accounts at 3 Singapore banks. $9 million of the stolen $12 million was recovered. Emma had been tracked to a luxury hotel in Bangkok, preparing to disappear with the remaining funds. The arrest made international news. Twin sisters in Wall Street fraud drama, the headlines screamed. Photos of us side by side, in court, at work, at our graduation, splashed across financial websites and newspapers. I watched the coverage from my office, where I'd been cleared of any wrongdoing. The documentation I'd kept, combined with the evidence from the shadow backup server, had protected me from Emma's attempts to share the blame. Then came the text I'd been dreading. Mom wants to see you. Hospital. Room 318. Our mother had been admitted with chest pains after Emma's arrest. I hadn't visited, couldn't face her disappointment. But now, the hospital corridor seemed endless. In room 318, Mom lay pale against white sheets, looking older than her 60 years. Sarah. Her voice was weak. Why didn't you protect her? I sat in the hard plastic chair beside her bed. Mom, Emma stole $12 million. She tried to frame me for it. How was I supposed to protect her from that? You're twins. You're supposed to look out for each other. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Now one of my daughters is going to prison. And the other daughter? I asked quietly. The one who did the right thing. What about her? Mom turned her face away. Just go. I stood, my own tears threatening to fall. At the door, I paused. You know what, Mom? Emma chose this path. She chose to steal, to lie, to betray everyone who trusted her, including me, especially me. I didn't put her in prison. She did that to herself. 2 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse, watching as Emma was sentenced to 15 years for fraud and money laundering. She pleaded guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. When they led her away, she turned to look at me. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the sister I'd grown up with, the other half of my whole. Then her expression hardened, and she was gone. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions. Sarah, how does it feel to send your twin sister to prison? Do you regret turning her in? Will you ever forgive her? I pushed through them to where Marcus waited by a company car. Ready to go back to work? He asked. I nodded. The board had named me head of global risk management, with a mandate to strengthen our fraud prevention systems. My first project? Implementing the shadow backup server across all divisions. That evening, I returned to my apartment and finally unpacked the box of family photos I'd hidden away after Emma's arrest. Each image told a story. Birthdays, holidays, graduations. 2 identical girls growing into 2 very different women. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. My heart stopped until I read it. Ms. Sullivan, this is Agent Carter. Final recovery complete. All stolen funds returned to Bradford Financial. Thought you'd want to know. I picked up the graduation photo I'd kept face down for so long. 2 smiling faces, 2 identical futures full of promise. Emma had chosen her path, and I had chosen mine. Opening my laptop, I began typing my weekly risk management report. Tomorrow, I would walk into Bradford Financial not as Emma's twin, not as the woman who uncovered a massive fraud, but simply as Sarah Sullivan, head of global risk management. And that was enough. My phone buzzed again. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Some relationships, like some investments, weren't worth the risk anymore. Outside my window, the city lights twinkled like stars, each one a reminder that sometimes the hardest choices are the right ones. I had lost my twin, my mirror image, my other half. But I had kept something more valuable, my integrity. And in the end, that was the only reflection that mattered.
Oh, indeed? Is it true that you've acquired a house? If so, I'd be interested in living with you. Unexpectedly, my mother-in-law started uttering such an absurd proposition over the phone. She must have caught wind of our recent home purchase from my husband. I could discern my sister-in-law's amused chuckles in the background. Does she believe her laughter can go unnoticed? Honestly, I have no desire to reside with my mother-in-law and the others. I thought my husband shared the same sentiment. However, the fact that they've been informed about our new house. Could it be that they're assuming we'll be living together? The idea that my beloved husband might be in cahoots with them fills me with a bit of apprehension. Yet, I have no intention of yielding to their wishes. Are they trying to manipulate me? If that's their game, I'll reverse the roles. Reflecting on all my past tribulations, I pledged revenge against them. I am Kate Thompson, 30 years old, working as an ordinary employee at a major financial corporation. I married my husband Joe 3 years ago, and though we don't have children yet, there's a valid reason for that, a decision we both took seriously. Joe and I are fully committed to our careers, toiling daily with the aim of advancing. Once our professional lives stabilize, we plan to build our own home and create a stable environment for raising children. We've agreed to revisit the topic of having kids once our careers settle down. This was a decision we made earnestly, sharing our genuine feelings and thoughts. We do aspire to have children eventually, and now, as we prepare for that, I find myself recalling all my past struggles. Then, one day, I successfully executed a well-planned project at work, and my promotion was officially confirmed. While my salary was already sufficient, the promotion brought even more comfort to our lives. On the other hand, Joe, although not promoted, received a substantial salary increase due to his years of service. With both our incomes on the rise, I felt it was time to turn our long-held dream into reality. So I broached the topic with Joe. Joe, I want to talk to you. Over the past year, both of us have had stable incomes. I think it might be time to consider getting our own home. What do you think? Oh, is it time already? From his excited voice, I could tell Joe was thrilled. Actually, I've been thinking about it too, but since I haven't been promoted yet, I felt a bit hesitant to bring it up. Don't worry about that. It's not like only one of us needs to earn money. I was thinking it might be okay to build our home in my name. Really? Well, you do earn more now. If you're okay with it, let's build our home in your name. All right, let's proceed with that. Let's go see some model houses on our next day off. Sounds great. Let's go. We shouldn't miss this opportunity. I really feel grateful for choosing Joe at times like this, as we share the same values. The following week, we made an appointment to view model homes as planned. We looked at various types of houses, expanding our vision for our own home. On weekends, we began creating simple floor plans together, researching online. During a recent visit to a construction company, they suggested that instead of leaving everything to them, it's better if we create our own image for a more satisfying home. So Joe and I started building that image. However, neither of us has much knowledge of architecture or design. Even with research, it takes time to put it into practice. While taking breaks, we continued working, and then the doorbell rang. I thought it was a delivery, but when I opened the door, my mother-in-law was standing there. Unexpectedly, huh? Mother, what brings you here so suddenly like this? My mother-in-law sometimes visits our place without notice. She glared at me and, without a word, took off her shoes and went into the house on her own. I'm here, Joe. Huh, Mom, what's up? Surprised by his mother's call, Joe showed a startled reaction. Did you have some business around here? To Joe's question, his mother looked a bit perplexed. Yes, I told Kate about it over the phone a little while ago, but it seems Joe didn't know. I see. Maybe Kate forgot to tell me. Seems like it. Kate, even though she's still young, has a terrible memory. That's not true, Mom. It's not forgetfulness. Kate is incredibly busy with work, and at the same time, she takes care of the household. Her mind is always full of things to do. You're such a kind boy, Joe. If your late father were here, he definitely wouldn't have forgiven that. I really respect Kate from the bottom of my heart. So, Mom, why did you come here today? To Joe's question, his mother smiled contentedly. Then, she slowly took out a travel brochure from her bag, spread a page with a post-it note on the table, and showed it. Listen, Joe. I've always wanted to go to Niagara Falls. Won't you take me, please? My mother-in-law began to say such things excitedly out of the blue. Caught off guard by the sudden request, both Joe and I were left staring at her, mouths agape. My mother-in-law, relentless, kept pressing Joe, who was clearly flustered. Come on, Joe, you agree, right? Think of it as a way to show filial piety. Wait a minute, Mom. I'm in trouble if you suddenly say you want to go on a trip, though you can come too. Actually, I was thinking of going with Claire, but if Joe wants to go, I'm delighted to turn it into a family trip. Claire is Joe's sister. What are you talking about? Kate is here, and I can't get time off from work. But it's strange for me to pay for a trip for you and my sister, right? Not strange at all. Spending money for the family is a wonderful thing, don't you think so, Kate? Suddenly turning to me, my mother-in-law sought my agreement. Though shaken, I firmly expressed my opinion to her. Well, using one's own money for family isn't bad, but I think imposing it on others is different. What do you mean by that? Are you saying I'm trying to extort travel expenses from Joe? I didn't mean to say it in such a harsh way, but listening to you, it sounded like you just wanted us to pay for the trip, Kate. That's terrible. I had no such intention, but you're making me out to be the villain in front of Joe. I'm so shocked. That's not. I didn't mean to call you a villain. I just answered honestly to what was asked. Okay, no need for excuses, Kate. Why are you so heartless? You must not like me, do you? My mother-in-law, visibly upset, glared at me with icy cold eyes. It always turns out like this when she comes over. She always finds some reason to demand money and then squanders it with Claire, Joe's sister. Spending money for the family sounds nice, but what my mother-in-law does is practically extortion. The situation is entirely different when Joe gives them money out of kindness. No matter that they're family, I never really liked Joe's brazen mother and sister. According to Joe, his mother and sister became so selfish after his father passed away. Joe's father died when he was in high school, and since then, they have lived as a trio. While his strict father was alive, he watched over the finances. But with his departure, there was no one to stop them, and they even freely spent the life insurance money. Also, since Claire works part-time, not as a full-time employee, her salary is low, and their life is always on the edge. So this is why she regularly visits our house, making excuses like life is tough, or I want to relax and travel somewhere to extort money from Joe. Before marrying Joe, it seemed he was at the mercy of his mother and her demands after his father's death. A sense of dependence for being cared for by his mother had bound Joe. However, since marrying me, Joe seems to be gradually realizing their true nature. Even when repeatedly asked for money, recently he's been trying hard to refuse. For Joe, that's quite a growth. Moreover, he has recently become able to speak back firmly to his mother. To my mother-in-law's spiteful words like, "You don't like me, do you?" Or "Why should I for such an uncharming daughter-in-law?" Joe responded clearly. "Just because you're my mother doesn't mean you can speak badly of Kate. Didn't Kate just answer what you asked her, Mom? You're taking Kate's side. What are you talking about?" "I think you're in the wrong here, Mom. That's so unfair. Surely Kate must have poisoned your mind against me. Poor thing, you were such a kind child before we got married." "I'm telling you that's not it. I'm saying this because I think so. Joe's firm response surprised my mother-in-law, who was not used to being talked back to like that. With a frustrated look, biting her lower lip, she said, "Fine," and left. "Kate, I'm sorry. I'd always make you feel uncomfortable." "No, it's okay. You stood up for us this time. Once we build our own home, we'll be further away. Let's not interact with Mom and them." "Then yeah, that would be a relief. If you're okay with it, Joe, I'm grateful. The place we are considering for our new home is quite far from our current apartment, improving the convenience to both of our workplaces. Our current apartment is about 5 train stations away from Joe's parental home, but the new house will be 3 times farther and require transfers. The route from the station is also complex, so if we don't give them the address, they won't be able to find our new home. It's a good chance to cleanly break off our relationship with my mother-in-law. Later, we submitted our imagined floor plan to the construction company, and the construction started 2 months later. After about half a year, our $500,000 dream home was completed. We managed to squeeze some time from our busy work schedules to pack a few days before the move. I received a call from my mother-in-law on my smartphone. "Busy packing." I turned on the speaker and answered the phone. "Hello," I said, and my mother-in-law started speaking in an unusually high-pitched voice. "Kate, when are you moving? You bought a house, right? I want to live with you." Suddenly, on the phone, my mother-in-law began to say such an outrageous thing. She must have heard about our new home purchase from Joe. I could hear Claire, my sister-in-law, chuckling in the background. "That's great. We can make Kate work for us every day. Mom, you came up with a good idea." Do they think their words aren't reaching me? It's clear they plan to piggyback on our move. I imagine them planning to use me for an easy life. Honestly, I have no intention of living with them. I thought Joe felt the same, but telling them about the new house. Could it be that they're assuming we'll live together? The thought that my beloved Joe might be in league with them fills me with a bit of fear. But I have no intention of letting them have their way. They're probably trying to use me, right? If that's the case, I'll turn it around and use them. I told them the date of our move. Then my mother-in-law and Claire said, "We'll come to the apartment in the afternoon on that day. Take us with you in the car, and arrange the movers for us too." They hung up after making their demands. But of course, I have no intention of complying. For now, I'll check the facts with Joe. As I was about to go and tell Joe this, he was already standing behind me. "Joe, you were there. I came to say we should take a break, but was that Mom on the phone just now?" "Ah, yes. I was going to talk to you about it too. Why did you tell your mother about our new home?" "It's not like that. Actually, when Mom came over last time, she seems to have seen the floor plan of our new house. She kept pestering me about it every day. So I just... Kate, I'm really sorry." "I see. So you don't intend to live with your mother, right?" "Of course not. After hearing that phone call, I'm even thinking it's better to cut ties with her." Joe's expression was filled with more anger than ever. It was the first time I had seen him this angry. From what Joe told me, my mother-in-law had seen the layout of our new home and was convinced it was a spacious house. She had pretended to be interested and called Joe repeatedly, asking him about the number of rooms and details of the facilities. But it seems that Joe is on my side, which relieved me. Then there's no problem at all. This made me determined to get my revenge on my mother-in-law. I've had enough of her saying whatever she wants, but it's goodbye to that now. I'll make sure to settle this properly. And so the day of the move arrived. Joe and I had the movers transport our things in the morning and headed to our new home in our car. By the time we finished moving everything, it was already past 1:00 p.m., checking our phones while taking a break. We saw dozens of missed calls from my mother-in-law. "She called me too," Joe said, sounding weary. Then my mother-in-law called again. I answered the phone with the speaker still on. Hello, Kate. Where are you? I told you I'd be at the apartment in the afternoon, didn't I?" Yes, you did say that. So what can I do for you?" "What do you mean? You didn't arrange for the movers. I've been waiting at home, and not a single truck has shown up. So I had to go to your apartment myself. Is that so? Well, that's too bad. You know, I didn't arrange for any movers. What? That's not the agreement. Where is your new house? Huh? You really think I'd tell you? After saying that clearly, my mother-in-law uttered a dumbfounded huh. She probably thought that as long as Joe was there, she could always have her way. But Joe is different now. He's my precious ally, trying to cut off the bad ties with his family. Determined to release all my pent-up feelings, I spoke firmly. Just to let you know, neither Joe nor I have any intention of living with the two of you from now on. Please don't involve yourselves in our lives. What are you saying? Your opinion doesn't matter. It's up to Joe to decide. At least tell me where the new house is right now. Huh? How are you going to get here without even knowing the address? This house is in my name. I have the right to decide who lives here. If you two just barge in, it's trespassing, and I'll sue you right away. What? Trespassing? How rude to say that about your husband's family. At that point, Joe spoke up in a deathly cold voice. Family? My father, who was a family member, is already gone, isn't he? What are you saying, Joe? After hearing that last phone call, I'm utterly fed up with you two. Just having a blood relation with you is embarrassing. From now on, my family is only Dad and Kate. I no longer consider you two as my family. Wait, Joe, don't say such things. Don't bother us again, got it? With that, Joe hung up without waiting for her reply. He swiftly set his phone to block her calls. Hey, Joe, are you really okay with this? Yeah, I finally realized that Mom was just using me to her advantage. I feel completely relieved now. Joe looked truly refreshed, sincerely believing what he said. That's how we, as a couple, managed to cut off the bad ties with my mother-in-law and sister. Afterwards, they had to change their lifestyle drastically, as Joe stopped supporting them completely. Without any contact with Joe, they lost their fallback option. Later on, my sister-in-law's part-time income wasn't enough, and my mother-in-law had to start working part-time as well. Being a housewife for so long, she wasn't used to the working environment and was clumsy, often being disliked at her workplace. Meanwhile, we live a peaceful life in our new home, with no sudden visits from my mother-in-law anymore. We are truly stress-free. I'm endlessly grateful to Joe for believing in me and cutting ties with his toxic blood relatives. We might face various challenges in the future, but even then, I trust Joe, and we will support each other and walk through life together.
Hi, I'm Jessica, a 30-year-old woman, and I want to share a recent experience that helped bring closure to a difficult period in my life, one that involved both my husband and his family. This chapter began a few months ago, and now that the dust has started to settle, I'm still processing the emotional fallout. I believe opening up about it might help me heal. Let's rewind to 3 years ago when I made a significant life decision. I married my boyfriend, Tyler. We met through mutual friends and enjoyed 3 wonderful years together before deciding to tie the knot. Tyler was always the life of the party, fun, attentive, and loving. He came from a well-off family and had a great job, which meant he could shower me with gifts and affection. Our bond grew stronger over our shared love for travel, and as our relationship deepened, my friends frequently praised him, genuinely happy for us. Tyler's generosity was often overwhelming. I remember when he bought me a new laptop for my college graduation, a gesture that, while incredibly kind, also made me feel uncomfortable at times. I couldn't help but notice the financial imbalance. Tyler, I'm just a student, I'd say. I can't match your spending. Let me at least split some costs. But Tyler would brush it off, insisting that it was normal for him to pamper his partner, just like his friends did. Eventually, I accepted his gestures, though I still sought ways to contribute within my means. Once I landed a good-paying job after graduation, I was excited to reciprocate his generosity. We started sharing expenses more equally and even talked about moving in together. You can move in with me, Tyler said one day. I inherited my house from my grandpa, so no rent to worry about, but we can split everything else to keep things fair. Although I had some reservations, Tyler reassured me that he had my best interests at heart, and so we embarked on this new chapter together. Things were going smoothly. Our financial responsibilities were shared fairly, given our different incomes, until I had the chance to meet Tyler's family. They lived far from us, and Tyler had work commitments, so I had to host them on my own. Before their arrival, Tyler warned me about their judgmental tendencies but didn't go into much detail. He just advised me to smile through it and not take any harsh words to heart. With that in mind, I approached the meeting with cautious optimism. However, any hope of a warm welcome quickly vanished when Tyler's parents and sister arrived. Instead of the friendly atmosphere I'd anticipated, they showed up visibly annoyed, setting a tense tone from the start. It didn't take long before their opinions about me became painfully clear. "So, you're the woman Tyler's been seeing," his mother Martha said coldly. "I didn't expect to find you living here. Do you even pay rent?" "No, Martha," I replied calmly, though her question caught me off guard. "Tyler told me the house was fully paid for, but we split all other bills evenly." Martha wasn't convinced. "Just because the house is paid for doesn't mean you can freeload. This is Tyler's house, not yours. Remember that." Her words stung, and the conversation grew more uncomfortable. Tyler's sister, Teresa, wasn't any better. She barely spoke to me, opting instead to glare or mention her marriage to a billionaire, as if to remind me of her superior status. Every attempt I made to connect with her was met with dismissiveness. Throughout their visit, Tyler offered no support. In fact, he seemed to side with his family, echoing their sentiments. His parents criticized my spending habits, particularly my purchases of makeup and skincare products, claiming they were frivolous considering my so-called limited contributions to the household. Their skepticism about my financial independence only deepened, partly because of comments Tyler had made. He casually mentioned to them, "Jessica was just a struggling student when we met," as if I'd been entirely dependent on him. While it's true Tyler supported me financially early on, his portrayal wasn't entirely accurate, and it felt like he was subtly reinforcing their negative opinions. Tyler's family's disapproval of me, combined with his passive stance, made the entire experience incredibly challenging. It left me questioning not only my relationship with them but also the dynamic between Tyler and me. I was caught off guard by these remarks and reminded Tyler that we had already adjusted our financial arrangement to split the bills equally. I explained that I had lived modestly both before and during our relationship and that any luxury items I had were gifts from him, gifts I had often warned him against due to their extravagance. Yet Tyler defended his lavish spending, claiming that his social status required him to give extravagant gifts. It became clear that his generosity was more about impressing his friends than truly caring for me. Their visit left me with a bitter feeling, so I confronted Tyler about the entire ordeal once they left. Unfortunately, he brushed it off. "Don't take it to heart, Jessica," he said dismissively. "They meant well. What they said wasn't serious. Relax, you're overreacting." Despite my concerns, he refused to acknowledge the problem. 5 months later, Tyler proposed, and despite my reservations, I accepted in a moment of happiness. We started planning our engagement party, deciding to split the costs evenly. By then, I was running a small business on the side. Tyler knew about it, but he never really showed interest in how much I was earning. To me, it was more of a fulfilling hobby than a major source of income. When it came time to organize the engagement party, I decided to indulge a bit, feeling it was an occasion worth celebrating. Tyler supported me in this, and we made sure to share the expenses equally. I even took on the additional costs of covering plane tickets for my extended family so they could attend. However, as the celebration unfolded, the same old criticisms resurfaced. "You shouldn't have splurged so much on this party, Jessica. You're draining Tyler's account before you're even married. At this rate, you'll end up with a backyard wedding," his family sneered. "I thought you were financially irresponsible, but it's worse than I imagined." Their harsh words stung once again, clouding what should have been a joyful moment with doubt and frustration. I stood my ground and firmly responded to Martha. Yes, the party was extravagant, but we both agreed to it. I paid my share, and it was actually your son's idea to invite so many people. Tyler had insisted, and I couldn't say no, especially when he mentioned he didn't mind the expense. But the criticism continued. Martha accused me of manipulating Tyler into spending more than he should, while Teresa chimed in, claiming she knew exactly what kind of person I was and that I should have been more considerate. Frustrated and overwhelmed by the tension, I excused myself to find some peace outside on the venue's lawn. There, I overheard Teresa and her husband Justin laughing at my expense. It felt like my engagement party was falling apart, with Tyler seemingly oblivious to his family's harsh judgments. Many of his extended relatives assumed I was jobless, painting me as a dependent fiancé. Noticing my distress, my mom, always protective and perceptive, approached me. As someone who had raised me as a single parent, she understood the challenges of managing finances and urged me to reconsider the engagement, pointing out the ongoing mean comments from Tyler's family. After the party, I confronted Tyler about everything that had happened. He shrugged it off, saying they were just joking, and reassured me that financial matters didn't concern him because he loved me. But I was firm, telling him I wanted to contribute more significantly to our expenses, including rent. Once again, he dismissed the idea. As we moved forward with wedding planning, the stress only intensified. Tyler's parents continued to criticize every choice I made, accusing me of bankrupting their son. The constant scrutiny made the engagement period feel unbearable. I tried explaining that everyone, including my mom, was pitching in for the wedding expenses, but Martha sharply accused me of taking advantage of Tyler, suggesting that I was trying to drain his bank account. Amid these accusations, my in-laws unfairly branded me a gold digger. I calmly addressed Gabriel, hoping to alleviate his concerns. Gabriel, I'm not asking for any financial help. We are completely capable of financing the wedding ourselves, I reassured him. Despite my explanations, Teresa didn't hold back her criticisms, especially about the cost of my dress and makeup for the wedding day, even though I had clarified that those were covered by my mother. The ceremony itself went smoothly, but during the reception, Martha and Gabriel continued to criticize my spending habits, accusing me of financially exploiting their son. Despite the harsh words, I knew that no matter how much I explained or defended myself, they were determined to paint me in the worst possible light. I chose to remain silent, determined not to let any conflict ruin what was supposed to be a special day. A few months later, Tyler received a significant promotion at work, and he was eager to celebrate with a grand family dinner. I was thrilled for him and wanted to make the occasion even more memorable, so I offered to cover all the expenses myself. Tyler, I want this dinner to be something extraordinary. I'm so proud of you, and I want to celebrate your success, I told him enthusiastically. He appreciated the gesture, and I shared that my business was flourishing, providing me with a stable income, and that I had recently accessed a trust fund from my paternal grandfather. I meticulously planned the entire event, determined to make it perfect for his celebration. However, when his family arrived, they were visibly displeased, despite the positive feedback from other guests. It became clear that they had reservations about the lavishness of the dinner. During the speeches, Martha stood up, her voice loud enough to command the room. I want to thank everyone for gathering here to celebrate my son, she began. He's incredibly hardworking, generous, and truly deserving of this promotion. Unfortunately, his good fortune hasn't extended to his choice of a partner. The room grew tense as her words hung in the air. It's unfortunate that, of all people, he's tied himself to what some might call a gold digger. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, but I remained still as she continued, her tone dripping with regret. I only wish he had seen her true nature earlier. Then maybe he wouldn't have to work so hard to support her lavish lifestyle. Her eyes scanned the room, making sure her message was heard. It's painfully obvious to everyone here that his wife has been extravagant, from the engagement party to tonight's dinner. It seems she has nearly drained his accounts. The sting of her words was sharp, but I kept my composure, knowing full well that any reaction would only fuel their baseless accusations. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. Martha added smugly, "Thank goodness we had Jessica sign a prenuptial agreement before the wedding. At least some of his assets are protected." She sighed, almost relieved, as she continued, "It's a good thing my son married someone who can at least keep up the appearance of a trophy wife." Tyler chimed in, agreeing with his mother. "I can't even afford to spend money on myself anymore. There's nothing left," he lamented, going so far as to say that marrying me was a mistake. He even compared my behavior unfavorably to what he imagined another wife might do in a similar situation. In shock and frustration, I finally spoke up. "Do you really think I'm a gold digger?" Tyler's response was sharp and hurtful. "Your lifestyle is quite damaging to my bank account." Stung but determined to set the record straight, I confronted the accusations head-on. "Since you all think I'm such a gold digger, let me show you my bank balance. Maybe that'll clear things up." I revealed my financial independence to the room, which was met with disbelief. Amid the heated exchange, Martha pointedly accused Did you steal my son's money? Tyler added suspiciously. She must have taken it from you. Frustrated but calm, I responded, I don't need to steal money from your son. Everything I have is from my own hard work. Besides, I recently accessed a trust fund left by my grandfather. I had plans to use it to buy a bigger house as a surprise for Tyler, but given the circumstances, that seems unlikely now. Despite my efforts to clarify, Tyler, seemingly ignoring the tension, suggested, we can still buy the house. It'll be a wonderful gift. But I was resolute. This is not happening. Your family has insulted me for too long, and you've never once stood up for me. Instead, you've allowed these false assumptions about me using your money to continue. My frustration was evident as I made my stance clear. Tyler, attempting to downplay the situation, claimed, you're overreacting. But I knew I couldn't let it go this time. I was told I was overreacting, but I stood firm. No, I'm not overreacting. Everyone here knows what your family has been saying about me. They were here when you allowed them to insult me at our engagement party. Feeling the weight of years of disrespect and humiliation, I reached a breaking point. I could no longer tolerate the toxic environment and told Tyler bluntly, I want a divorce. As Tyler tried to plead and explain, my mother intervened. You've never defended my daughter. It's time she ends this toxic relationship for good, she declared firmly. We left the party, leaving behind a crowd of shocked attendees who whispered among themselves. Despite the dramatic scene, I was resolute in my decision to end the relationship. My mother's support was unwavering, marking the end of a painful chapter in my life. After the confrontation, I went straight to our home, gathered my belongings, and while Tyler persistently tried to reach me, I muted my phone and went to stay with my mother for solace. The next day, I contacted my cousin, a lawyer, to start drafting the divorce papers. With a prenuptial agreement in place, the process promised to be straightforward, sparing me from sharing any of my significant financial assets with Tyler. However, the situation escalated when Tyler and his family showed up at my mother's doorstep, demanding to speak with me. My mother stood firm and instructed them to leave. Meanwhile, Tyler's messages ranged from tearful apologies to unsettling threats, which I documented and prepared to use for a restraining order if necessary. My mother's steadfast support gave me strength. Tyler even attempted to confront me at my office, but after informing security, he was promptly escorted out. It was then I decided to resign from my well-paying job. My thriving business meant I no longer needed the position, and I was no longer focused on accumulating wealth but on seeking a peaceful and dignified life. I handed in my resignation that very day and began moving forward. A week later, I served the divorce papers to Tyler at his workplace, only to find out he had already been informed of my resignation. My former colleagues reported his continued attempts to send flowers and gifts to my mother's house, which we consistently returned. The ongoing harassment led me to consider relocating. With my mother's encouragement, I found an ideal house in a neighboring state, providing a sanctuary away from my ex. As I awaited the finalization of the divorce paperwork, the judge facilitated a smooth proceeding thanks to the strong prenuptial agreement. During the 5 months of our separation, I took the time to regroup and prepare for a new chapter in my life. I quickly settled into my new home, changed my number to avoid the incessant messages from Tyler and his family, and began to enjoy my newfound freedom. I heard through the grapevine that Tyler's life was falling apart. He blamed his parents for the end of our marriage and faced professional setbacks as his colleagues distanced themselves and his superiors were displeased with the negative publicity. His parents contributed to the turmoil by spreading infidelity rumors, but thankfully, these baseless accusations didn't gain traction. In contrast, my life began to flourish. I focused on growing my business and embraced my newfound freedom. I started going out more and even re-entered the dating scene. While Tyler's past actions made me cautious, I remained hopeful that I would heal and eventually find someone who truly values and cherishes me. Although Tyler's actions caused me considerable pain, the strength I gained from overcoming those challenges propelled me into a brighter future, full of possibilities and self-discovery. I look forward to what lies ahead, confident in my resilience and clearer about what I seek in relationships and in life.